Approximately 50% more copper is needed within the next 8 years. But the production capacity of the mines, that cannot magically be increased, right? So instead, now it's time to look for exciting and good projects, especially in the copper industry, before the upcoming boom. And this is exactly where Prospect Resources is positioning itself. A few years ago, they already achieved great success in the lithium industry, but are they able to do it again now in the copper space? Today I'm joined by Sam Hosack. He's the CEO of exactly this company, Prospect Resources. First of all, Sam, it's good to have you. Thank you very much for your time.
Good morning. Thank you, Jan. Thank you for having me.
So Sam, let's start maybe a little bit more general and let's talk a little bit more about the background of Prospect Resources, right? You were able to sell your Arcadia lithium project in 2022 for way more than 300 million US. Most of it was dividended as a payout to Prospect shareholders, but there was also some cash left into the company to buy new asset and obviously do it again, increase more value for shareholders. Can you please give us a brief overview about the current situation of the company? What's the cash position? And maybe keep it briefly and we dive in deeper into the project within our conversation.
Thank you. Jan, so we've been working with you and some of your shareholders back to 2020. We, as a business, have been extremely focused on transformational, transitional metals. Lithium is a transitional metal, so we see it as fundamental to the decarbonization cycle. And so we have a set of skills that we thought we needed focus on that decarbonization opportunity. So we're seeing increases in electrification, both in vehicles and our fleet. And of course, lithium is a typical battery mineral. So the Prospect Resources was actively seeking out lithium projects and discovered for the first time the Arcadia lithium project. So it wasn't known to be a lithium deposit. This was what Prospect discovered. And that was in 2018, 17 and 18. We then went through a very classic process of managing risk. So what we do is we go, well, we've got this fantastic asset. It's a world-class, top 10 hard rock lithium asset. What are we going to do to take it into production? And we did all the feasibility work, all the assumptions, and that's our experience, that's our background. And yes, it resulted in a bankable feasibility study. So a really high quality study, which we used to market the project, which led to the sale of the Arcadia project to YU Cobalt. On a 100% basis, it was actually $422 million, but we were 378 million of that in US dollar terms. And we felt very strongly that our shareholders had supported us through that development and discovery period, and that they needed to be rewarded for that. So we dividended back in a capital return around 96 cents on the dollar. Yeah, it was in Aussie dollar terms, just under $450 million back to our shareholders. And then we retained 30 million Aussie dollars. And we've been busy. Yeah, we've been busy looking for, our next opportunity. So currently, our balance sheet, post acquisition of the Momi project, which is a copper project, and we'll talk about that. Yeah, our balance sheet's around just over 10 million Aussie, and we have completed the acquisition of the Momi copper project.
All right, that's great. Thank you very much for giving us a little bit more insights, especially on the background, especially for our new listeners and shareholders that haven't been with the company in 2020 already. All of this sounds very good. Before we talk more about the copper industry, why did you do your move to the copper industry? Let's talk a little bit more about you, Sam, as the CEO. Because I'm always telling the investors that, sure, you have to have a good ground, you have to have good grades, you do need good drilling results, but in the end, right, it comes back to the CEO and the board to really make the right decisions with the money that I've invested as an investor. So maybe you can tell us a little bit more, why do you think you can have another success here as the CEO of Prospect? And another question which is always important for our shareholders, do you and the management team, do you guys have skin in the game, as they say? So do you own some shares by your own? That would be interesting to know.
Okay. Yes, good questions. So Prospect Resources as a team have been together now for close to 7 years. There's been some people who've come, there's been some people who've gone, but the core, myself and the core directors, we've been together for quite a time. And that is a very important point for investors, is to look not only at the caliber of the team, but how hard and how tight are they held together. So we're a very sticky team. We've not let any of our key talent leave. During the sale process, a big part of our team went with the business. We sold obviously the Arcadia project. It had a general manager. It had its own team, and so there was a period where we missed a key part of that team. But we've fundamentally stuck together as a management and a board, and yes, we are very invested into this business. We have lots of skin in the game. So management and the board currently hold just under 10% of the issued equity. So that's quite a big portion. And I think you can see that there's been probably over the last 4 or 5 months, lots of buying from the board. I've personally been buying in the market at the opportunities that I've had, where the market is fully informed. So personally, as a managing director, I see a huge amount of opportunity here, not only for the team and the project, but to keep the business together and grow that and to maintain that momentum. So yes, we're very invested and continue to increase our exposure to Prospect Resources.
All right, that sounds very good. Thank you very much for your statement. And also it's good to hear that you and the management team is really engaged with the company. So let's talk about your shift, or the shift that the company made. I mean, you've been in the lithium industry, which was quite a nice timing, to be fair here. And now you went into the copper industry. Do you think now is also the right timing for copper, as we can maybe see a copper boom? As I already said in the intro of the video, there is way more copper needed if you believe the studies. Do you think we could see a copper run, and B, is that why you are now in the copper industry?
Okay, Jan. So my involvement in copper dates back to the period where I graduated from university as an engineer. I joined a copper producer. And I had 15 years with that single employer and went through different roles in that organization, and some of them quite senior, actually, towards the end. So I've always been very invested into copper. Copper is a very mature sector. So for copper to need to increase its production base by nearly 100% by 2050, is a huge opportunity for a company like Prospect. Not only for the company, but for our unique set of skills. We have the experience in copper. We have the background of success in commercialization. We have the balance sheet, and we have the team. So I think we're in a very unique position. And so we've been looking for over 12 months, actually, in Zambia, particularly, for copper projects. And we've looked at a lot of projects, and we've been very selective. We've not been in a rush. We've been very patient. And so it's an exciting time for us.
Absolutely. Let's talk more about the Mombezi Copper project in detail. I mean, Prospect owns, from what I know, 85% of the project. So first of all, who owns the other 15? Do you think that will be a good fit? And also, which is the most important thing, you have released some really exceptional drilling results recently into the ASX market. This is just the beginning, right? But we've seen intercepts of more than 1% copper, which is really, really great. So what do you think is the potential of the project here?
Okay. Yeah, a couple of very good questions there. So firstly, this project, we've known about it for quite some time. We followed it as a group on and off for over 10 years. And as with lots of these opportunities, it's not only about finding something that people didn't know about, but it's also about getting involved in a project that people do know about. And this particular project, in an area where there's been billions of dollars of investment, capital spend, we've seen very little real focus on this particular project. And there's a couple of reasons why that has happened. There's been commodity cycles. We've seen copper go up and copper go down. We've seen businesses run out of money. We've seen them having to force the sale. And so this particular asset has not had, in our opinion, a sustained push by one company for a long enough period. Focus push. So we've acquired 85% of the Mombegi project. It's in the northwest of Zambia, which is an established sector within the Zambian copper belt. And the 15% partners or shareholders that we have been involved in this project on and off for around 8 years. So they're good partners. They are credible partners, and they're called GDC, which is the Global Development Corporation. So yes, we've worked very closely with them. We've obviously done our deal with them, which is now completed. And we think that we'll continue to work closely with them. They have skills that can contribute to this project. So yes, the project's particularly exciting because I think we can unlock. We have the balance sheet and the team now joined with the project. And we think those three things really enable this project to move quickly now. So we have just gone through all the data. We've released a summary of all the data, including some new data. But I think the real areas that we're excited about are the work that we're going to do in the next 6 weeks, 6 to 8 weeks. We're going to start our own drilling. We've also started an environmental impact assessment. We've got metallurgical studies we're starting. And so, essentially, we've just taken control of the project, but it's just the beginning, really, of the plan that we have. And that plan isn't a new plan. It's the same plan that we had from Arcadia, the same team, well-funded. So we feel like we're in quite a strong position.
Yes, sounds really good. I mean, as we've already talked about, the first results that you've released look really promising. And I think now it's really the time to look at the work that you are going to do within the next 4 to 6, maybe 8 weeks. And I think we have some exciting news flow ahead that's really going to be interesting. But before we come maybe to the next milestones that you are going to achieve, let's ask me one more question about obviously investing into Africa. You already talked about it. Prospect has been in Africa for quite a while, but Africa is always considered to be, let's say, a bit difficult, right? I mean, a lot of companies have been there, they've tried it, and they failed at the end. But you are difficult. Do you have like a different playbook, as they say? Do you have good connection with the governments? What personally really makes you excited about doing business in this jurisdiction? So tell us a little bit more about the connection to Africa for your team. Why do you think you are in a great position?
Yes. Well, I mean, if I maybe just unpack a little bit about Prospect. Prospect was started because we have great projects in Africa. We have great personnel in Africa, but there's often inadequate finance. So Prospect was formed as a company to maximize the formation of good projects, good personnel, and access to capital through the listing and the Australian Securities Exchange. So that is our pedigree. That's how we started. Now, as a company, we look very carefully at which country in Africa we're going to invest into and focus on. And I really want to be clear, it's an enormous continent. There are big, large areas of Africa that we don't have any experience in and we aren't looking at. But there are areas where we've got deep experience and we're very well established. And Zambia is a very key focus for us. So I've spent, dating back to the mid 2000s, early 2000s, extended periods in Zambia, Congo, and North Africa, and always coming back to Zambia, where more and more copper work was done. So personally, this is a jurisdiction that's extremely stable. It's an easy jurisdiction to invest into from a debt and funding perspective. We've got majors involved in this country in Zambia, such as Barrick Gold, First Quantum Minerals. So, we're not trying to cut the path. I think what we're trying to do is play a critical role between the majors and the very small juniors. There's a really exciting opportunity in the middle where we feel safe. We have the experience and the funds. So it's very purposeful, Jan. We've not by accident happened to come to this investment. It's been the sum of all of our focus.
This sounds really good, and I think companies, especially like Barrick Gold, are moving a little bit towards copper. So I think these type of large major companies are really looking at you at the moment, and I think they are also excited about the upcoming news flow from Prospect because they know that you have an experienced team. So, let's summarize, right? You do have the cash and the ability to really bring the project forward. You are in the copper industry, which is considered one of the best industries you can be in the metal space within the next few years. You do have the experience, you are in a great location, and as I said, your management team is not just good in the copper industry, you also have skin in the game. With you and your team now on the ground at Moambesi, what can we expect for the next month? What kind of news flow, and what are the next milestones that you really have to achieve to bring the project forward? Give us a little bit of a future outlook here.
Yeah. Well, we need to get busy firstly, and we've got a lot of work to do. We know what we need to do. And as you've referenced, we do have the funding to deliver that work and the experience. So having recently, let's say in the last 3 weeks, completed our transaction, we've got a lot of background work to do. We've got to analyze 10 years of work by other parties and try and really reverse engineer what were they doing, what were they thinking, and not only try and understand what they were thinking, but inform our own thinking. We've got drilling that we're planning, and so that is going to be in line with where the gaps are that we see in the experience and data that we've acquired. And then I guess as a business, we are always trying to think one step ahead. So not only do we want to do the drilling with a view to understand the geology and the geometallurgy, but we're also trying to say, well, what's next? Well, let's start the feasibility work, basically with a desktop study, with some metallurgical work. Let's get some basic assumptions together that could form the beginning of the project so that we ourselves can say, yes, this is the path we want to put to the project. So there's a lot of initially exploration work, which for the first time it will come from Prospect on this project. And secondly, the metallurgical work and the progress towards a maiden resource estimate. We need to define with your standard, what do we have here? And yeah, that's probably the most exciting part of any project is, how big and where is it and what's the geology? So that's the next phase. And I guess we need to get that information to our shareholders so that we can convince them of exactly how big this could be.
All right. That sounds really good. Sam, thank you very much for informing us, for summing the story up. In the end, is there anything you think that we have not talked about, anything which is really important for German shareholders here watching and listening to our video? Let's say the last words belong to you. What do you think people should know about Prospect that we haven't touched base on?
I think there's a lot of information about Prospect, and I think naturally, I think shareholders and your German investor community, they're quite sophisticated. They'll be thinking about Zambia, and they'll be thinking, well, what do I know? What don't I know about Zambia? And what I want to talk about Zambia here, so I want to talk about it in the sense of this is a country that's got a long period of copper production. It's very copper focused. They're intending to double their copper production in the next 15 years in Zambia. They're focusing on the investment environment for copper, and pretty much everything that gets done in Zambia is around the copper sector. It is a huge contributor to the economic growth of the country and the foreign receipts, meaning the income. So Zambia is, in the 15 or 20 years that I've been following Zambia and working there, it is at its most prime. They are bringing the same investment credibility and focus that investors like Prospect are bringing. So we feel like it's a fantastic time to be partnering with Zambia. It's in a very strong political position. It's got fantastic rocks. It's got copper. It's got producers. It's got majors like Barrick and First Quantum Minerals. So, this is a really important country within Africa, and one that we feel very confident about. So I think that's a key message that I think it's my duty to communicate what we're seeing about Zambia and why we're so excited about Zambia.
Great. Sam, thank you very much for sharing the story of Prospect Resources for us. Obviously, to all the viewers, this is no investment advice, but have a look at the company definitely and have a look at the news flow. You can see all the informations in German language on our website, axinocapital.de, and also all the English informations are provided by the company itself. Everything will be linked below the video. Sam, thank you again, and I'm really looking forward to see the news flow in the next weeks.
Thank you. Speak to you soon.
Speak to you soon. Thank you.